So in this video, I'm going to share with you guys part of my personal story, my own journey. As you've seen from the title, I'm going to be talking about a time where I was completely filled with hate for the majority of my life, and how I eventually evolved to the point that I am now, where the complete opposite is true. And I'm actually filled with love and really want to dedicate myself to helping others. So starting from a very young age, bad things happened to me. There were circumstances that occurred that led me to very unfortunate situations and places in which I suffered greatly. And as a result of that suffering and the impact of it psychologically on me at that early age, I began to develop internal rage and anger that I can't even begin to describe to you. And it continued on and on and on. And as time passed and I got older, I felt like the world was just shitting on me more and more, and life was just dealing me the worst of hands in every opportunity. And I didn't believe in God. I didn't know of any God. And I remember thinking to myself, there is no fucking God. Because if there's a God, why the fuck is he letting this shit happen to me? Why is he letting this shit happen to other young kids and to other people all over the world? Why is there misery? It's bullshit. That's how I felt. And that rage developed and developed and developed. And it wasn't that I didn't have good within me and that I was full of bad or evil and my intentions were wrong. That's not the case. And I never made victims of any innocent people. But if you crossed me during that period of my life, I had no fucking mercy. None. None. I would just explode into a fucking rage to anyone who stood before me, to anyone who wanted to fuck with me. Because I had no other outlet, and I had nothing else in me except for that, for blame, for hate, for rage and jealousy and pride. These were the emotions that were driving me back then. Insecurity, fear. I feared life. I feared evil. I feared the things that happened to me. I feared that they would occur again. And I feared that, I was damned and that I had no opportunity in life. There was no chance for me. I was fucked. And so I began to no longer fear death. I began to welcome death and say, fuck life. Let death come. Because this shit is not for me. There's nothing for me to hold on to. And time passed, and a lot of bad things happened. I shed blood on a lot of people. And again, none of them were innocent. But regardless, I was a very, very dangerous person. And in a later time in life, I ended up finding another one similar to me, another man who had a very similar background, and he and I partnered up, and together we were just like fucking monsters among civilians. And people never knew it. We would never hurt anybody who was innocent. We would never go out of our way to fuck with people. But if you fucked with us, the slightest disrespect, what we interpreted as disrespect, and your world would become a fucking nightmare. And I remember in those times, I was just so lost. And I'd look at myself in the mirror and I'd wonder, what the fuck is this life? What the fuck am I? And in looking at my reflection, I would see myself, but I would also see something else. I would see a fucking evil and a monster that was dwelling inside me. And it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. And this is the monster that was inside me. And I mean, again, this is one of those stories that it's very difficult to relay to you guys, because there were things that happened that even if I told you, you'd never believe it. You'd never believe. And it's not just one or two things, it's a multitude of things. But the thing that ended up changing my situation for me, it wasn't the circumstance in itself. It happened during the time that I was in prison. As a result of my life and the way I was living and my lack of fear and my lack of regard for anyone. I didn't give a fuck about cops. I didn't give a fuck about government. I didn't give a fuck about law. Nothing. I feared no man. And at that time, that's why I say I was one of the most dangerous fucking people around. Because even the bad motherfuckers looked at me and saw that I wasn't like them. I had a look in my eye that was completely different from them because I didn't give a fuck if death came. I didn't give a fuck if police came. I was already at the point where I set it in my mind that murdering police was no fucking problem. Fuck them. And life just continued. Life continued in that way until, I was 22 years old and I found myself facing 145 years in prison. That's it. End of that chapter. Life was over and done, and they were going to fucking bury me in prison. And it was a circumstance in which the world told me it was over. There's no fucking way out. It's impossible that you get out. And I sat in jail for a long time not knowing what the outcome would be. But in that time, I began to change. I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement for me was a place where you either find yourself, you find God, you find some power within, or you fucking lose it. And you lose everything. You lose yourself in there. People screaming all night long, crying, banging, trying to kill themselves, rambling, going crazy. And in that madness, I had nothing to escape. I had no possibility but to deal with whatever the fuck demons were there, were fucking with me, were in my mind, inside me. And I had no choice but to find the truth in those times. The truth about me. Who the fuck am I? And how fucking bad are you really? And I gave my life to God during those times. It was during those times that I reached absolute rock bottom. Complete rock bottom. Done. Done with life. Fuck this life. I don't want it. And I got down on my knees and I gave up to God and said, God, okay, here it is. Here it is. I'm fucking broken. And I'm finished. And I have no desire left. Help me. Help me. Give me a chance. And help me. And show me that you exist. Prove to me that God is real. And it was a very powerful moment for me. And as time progressed in there, I continued in my dialogue with God, in my head, in reading the Bible, and trying to understand. And it came to a point where I realized and I understood about evil and about the devil, whatever you want to call it. But there is a power that exists out there that had hold of me. It's a very powerful force, but its power is dependent on your belief and on your acceptance of fucking lies. And I came to that conclusion during those times, that it was all a fucking lie, that the hate that I had inside me was fucking garbage, and that's not what I am. It's not what I am. And the things that occurred, the fucked up things that happened to me, were not a punishment, but a preparation. God called me for something. And I had to endure all those things. And I had to suffer in all the ways I did that I could never understand at the time in order for me to be who the fuck I am today and be able to confidently speak in the way I do. There was no other way that I could have reached this ultimate point that I'm at now, other than exactly what happened to me. And I remember as those days passed and I started getting more and more confident in myself and in God and in understanding the truth about everything, that I came to a point where I called out the fucking evil, the devil, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And I took back all my fucking power from it. And I said, fuck you, motherfucker. There is no fucking fear anymore. I have no fear of any fucking force out there. Come to me. Any fucking time. Come see me. You're strongest. Yourself, fucking devil, whatever the fuck you are. Come at me. That's how strong I got in God. And it's not me, but it's just my allowing for the truth to come in me and to accept it and to let go of pride and let go of ego and humble myself. I went from facing 145 years to getting sentenced to a total of 20 on paper, technically, but having to do 5. And I got out in less than that, and I got paroled. And that was that one prison sentence, and there was some jail times prior to that. But what was impossible to man was proven to me possible with God. I never ratted on anybody. I never made no fucking government deal. I never informed. None of that shit. How did I get out? Miracle after miracle had to happen. And I saw the power of God. I understood at that point the power of God. That there's no force out there. The forces that I had fear of facing, the prosecution, the court, the government, all this shit, the cops, nothing. When I have God in my side, in my heart, and I'm doing right, nothing can fucking stand in my way. Nothing. And God spoke to me and instructed me on what to do and how to continue and proceed and what deal to not take and what exactly to do and how to speak in those courtrooms until the conclusion came. And people thought I was crazy at the time. Everyone. Lawyers, people in the fucking jails, friends, family, everybody thought I was fucking nuts. Because there was no chance of me getting out in man's eyes. They made me one offer. 30 years. 30 fucking years. And they told me that's your only plea offer right there. 30 years and you serve 85% of it. 28 years before you're even eligible for parole. And if you don't take this, you go to trial, you're finished. Think about that. I put my life on the line, literally. And I put it in God's hands. And I said, okay, let's see what happens. I have nothing left to lose. I lost already. Myself, personally, as an individual, I fucked up this game of life, and I'm done. And it was game over for me. And instead, God saved me from that. And I can never deny what happened, no matter what. I know people don't like this talk of God and this kind of talk in general. We live in a time now where people just mock this shit and laugh at it. And no matter what the fuck the whole world will say, me personally can never fucking deny what happened because I was there. I was there. And I'm not crazy. I was crazy. And I may still be crazy in some ways. But not in that way. Not in that way. And so here I am, today, many years later, and I feel completely different than I did. And it's not that I have hope for myself or for a future, for pleasures and happiness and riches. I don't give a fuck about those things. It's that I know that God has saved me in order for me to be utilized in some way and for Him to use me for something. And it's to help people. And that's what I dedicate my life to now. I do a lot of volunteer work that really gives me a lot of fulfillment because I see the impact. And I feel God's presence all the time there. And people wonder why I do these things. They don't understand. Why the fuck you go to the ghetto and try to help people you don't even know? You don't give a fuck about these people. Worry about yourself. They said that to me when I was poor. And now I have all the material things that people look up to and envy in life, and they don't mean shit. And they say that even more to me now. Why do you give a fuck? And the answer is because I'm not acting on my own accord. I cannot downplay the blessings that have been given to me. And equally, I cannot downplay the importance of my doing what God's will is for me. And it's not for me to accumulate things and worry about myself and dominate in business and make money. It's not that. I've been blessed in so many ways, but it was for me to serve a purpose. And a lot of you out there are going to think that, this is all dumb shit and this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. You could laugh at me. You could mock me. 10,000 of you could talk shit about me. But if only one of you listening to this feels the presence of God, then I'll have served my purpose in making this video and revealing all this stuff to you. I could never reveal stories like this if I still had pride and ego as my driving forces. I'm not proud to tell stories like this of what happened, but I'm proud of what God did for me. And I'm not ashamed of it, and I'll never be ashamed to say it. So to any of you out there who can relate to the feelings that I had from the majority of my life, hopelessness, being lost and not giving a fuck and having a fucking rage and anger or hate inside you, look to me as example of it being possible to change and to get out of that shit. Look to God, of course, first, and see what He's done for me and for so many others. But you have to be willing to stand alone. You have to be willing to believe in something that others will laugh at you for. You have to be willing to be unpopular. You have to not give a fuck about what anybody thinks. You have to be willing to stand in front of a fucking army in your belief in God. I have no fear. I didn't have no fear of man back then. I have no fucking fear of man now. I had a lot of fear of evil back then. Now I laugh at it. I welcome that shit. I fucking dare that shit to come near me. Because it fucking fears me now. The thing that I feared most fears me. It's scared to death of me. Because it knows that when any one of us knows the truth about ourselves and allows for God to empower us, we're unstoppable. One person could change the whole fucking world with that kind of power behind them. So again, this video I felt inspired to do. I know it's long and a lot of you, again, you're not going to be able to relate to this. But to those that are, this message was for you in particular. Learn to recognize and understand and see signs. And when God communicates, receive the messages as they come to you. Don't forget them. Don't disregard them. So I hope you guys took something out of this, and thank you for listening.